Okay, the next one, enforcing security. Security is a big topic that always comes up, and we've said that security is kind of a very complicated field. There are lots of different entrants into security, ways of thinking about security. Iceberg is not trying to solve all of the security problems, but it is trying to make it capable enough that people can introduce security using the kind of platforms and frameworks that they want. The ones that we do provide are some of the standards like OAuth 2, OIDC, and SIG-v4 if you're using REST protocol for the catalog. Those have built-in implementations with kind of documented patterns for how to leverage these. It doesn't mean that this solves every security problem. If you want RBAC solutions, if you want policy, you're likely going to have to turn to a vendor. And part of it is just like Iceberg is a complicated enough project in and of itself. And if we go with an opinionated solution in security, we're actually going to cut out a lot of people who aren't using that particular technology. For example, Netflix, where we started, they have their own security, Meacham, which is unlike anything else out there. And so if we were to choose something like that, that would pretty much eliminate anybody else from using those security mechanisms. So we want it flexible enough that you can bring security as you need, but it isn't something that is going to be so opinionated by the project that there is only one solution. The next thing is there are other things you can do to secure your data. Encryption is something that is in progress, and I think we're getting close to finalizing everything around encryption, at least in the Spark implementation, which will be the initial reference implementation, and we'll follow on with others. But the idea here being that there's a kind of a metadata structure that aligns with the keys and encryption that you need to secure your data reliably in whatever your object store is. So this is something that you can bring your own keys for, and it really, really works great for providing control over your data. You can delegate some of that to the cloud providers if you want to use their key mechanisms, but ultimately, this provides a great way of performing encryption all the way down to the actual physical file levels. So best practice, of course, is think about your security model first. It isn't something that's easy to bolt into a system after the fact. We've learned that a lot of the big companies that were early entrants into the big data processing market, applying security on top of your existing infrastructure is quite hard. And I believe this is the last category, and I don't have a whole lot to say about this. Data privacy and compliance. It's obviously a really important field. Data governance, all of the things that companies care about in terms of policy compliance and regulatory compliance. Iceberg has some great features to support these things, but it isn't necessarily the answer to all of these things. It isn't a data governance tool. It's a table format. So what do you want to do here? You actually want to leverage Iceberg features in order to adhere to whatever those requirements are. So, for example, if you have litigation holds or something like that, you can use tagging in order to preserve the data set as it was, and then the maintenance procedures will respect those things and keep your data at the state that it needs to be, for whatever purpose that you have. Branching for isolating changes, for remediating problems with the data sets, and then maintenance for retention, making sure that you're actually performing those maintenance activities, you're cleaning up your data, and you don't have like straggling data out there that would actually put you out of compliance. And then the next thing is leaning into some of the future capabilities that we're looking at for Iceberg. So one is the REST catalog specification. We're looking into adding policies that engines can enforce for things like filter conditions and which columns people can project. This allows the engine to do some sort of policy enforcement. It doesn't mean that Iceberg becomes a policy engine. It just has a way of representing that. So engines that adhere to that specification can be used for policy enforcement. View support is another one. It can be used to, limit what people can see from data sets. There's obviously implementation implications to that and like how you integrate that within your ecosystem. And the last thing is like native integrations. A lot of these engines have great capabilities, and you want to pick engines that can kind of address the use cases that you have while still maintaining your Iceberg-based warehouse that you can use with other technologies and just prevent ones that can't adhere to those policies from accessing the data. So with that, The last best practice is leverage Iceberg features. There's a lot of great things there.